Okie dokie.
Hey, folks.
Hey,
Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties on my end, so I'm just going to start on my phone, but then I'll move over to my laptop in a second. So let's see. We've got Jim, Molly, Laura, Haley, Susie. Okay, great. So I'm going to call the FinCom to order at 7:02. Um, let's see. We've got kind of a few things to do tonight. I think the most important one is to discuss our some end of year uh, line transfers. And maybe I'll just say a couple things for the newer members about this process. So one of the ways we address um, budget lines that are running a deficit at the end of the year, have been overspent, is we can, with approval from the FinCom and the Select Board, we can authorize the accountant to transfer funds from a line that's underspent to a line that's overspent um, to balance that deficit. So I can't recall. Did I share Gail's spreadsheet? Does that sound familiar at all? Okay, I'm gonna send it right now then. Let's see. So Gail, our accountant, makes this process a lot easier because she basically prepares for us some specific, like a list of those lines that have a deficit and essentially makes some recommendations for um, what lines to transfer from. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just sending this now. All right. See, I should be able to start my Zoom now on my desktop. Um, so maybe we'll start on this topic. So just bear with me for a second. I'm going to now switch to my desk. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay.
yep.
Great. All right. So let me pull up that document. So, and I was looking at this, and I mean, I guess the one important line that's not on here is the snow removal. So maybe, Haley, we can have a quick chat also about what our current thinking is about how to deal with that. Okay, so we've got a total of, let's see. Oh, wait, let me share this.
Um,
Yeah.
and I just want to print page.
Okay. So we have a total of, I think it's 7 lines that have amounts they've been overspent. So this is how this document works. This comes from the accountant. So we have $11,250 deficit on the assessor's clerk. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming this is because that position was vacant, and so obviously the clerk was doing the work of.
Yeah, that's correct. That
All
is,
right,
that
yeah.
is correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right, and so yeah, so the suggestion here is to transfer $11,250 from the administrative assessor line. I should probably also pull up the last expense report. See. So I can tell you what we have left in each of these lines that we're transferring from. Let's see. Okay, so as of the May 31st, well, through May 31st, expensive, but the last one I got, let's see, it's dated May 21st. We have a balance of $32,700 or so. So we have plenty of funds in that line. So I'm gonna first make a motion to recommend the transfer of $11,250 from the administrative assessor line to the assessor's clerk line. So is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. And now, are there any questions or any discussion about this? Does this seem pretty straightforward?
Yeah.
So this is just an obvious case of, unfilled position and that work being done by another person. Okay. So let's take a quick roll vote then, if there's no question or comments. So who's starting tonight since George is not here? Me?
You do.
I think I do. Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Moss eye.
Where's
Oops.
Laura? Well,
Mike.
Stein eye. Where is Laura?
She was here.
She's
Oh, there
here.
she is. Yeah,
But,
she's not, anyway.
Muted, but
She's muted.
maybe
He's
she's not
coming back, I think.
Yeah, looks that way.
I'll say Walt and I while we're waiting.
All right, great. Laura, did you hear that?
I
We
kind
just-
of went, I skipped, I mean, I heard the motion and things like
Okay.
that and skipped through, but
Okay.
yes, so Soito I for the assessor
Perfect.
line transfer.
Okay, great. So, so we're approving that transfer. Next one up is, the electrical line. Just want to turn one thing here. So-
AJ?
Yep.
Yeah, just
Go
while
ahead,
you're
Jim.
looking at that, I mean, I was just looking at the most recent expense report and
Yeah.
I only show over that the assessor's clerk line is only over by about 6,000 something rather than 11,000. So are we expecting more to come in or am I missing
Yeah.
something there?
He
Yeah.
has a
Or
later date.
I just pulled out the most recent one that's online,
Yeah.
expense report.
That's
I was.
dated
Yeah, go ahead.
5/7. That's stated on 5/7. And I think AJ said he had a different date.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things going on. One is that there's probably a little bit of a lag that we're seeing. And I think Gail is making a projection because these are ongoing costs, right? Or some of these are.
Yes.
So like electricity is obviously we're still gonna incur an expense here through June 30th. Same with the assessor's clerk is going to continue to be paid through the end of the year. So I think Gail is doing a couple things. One is she's looking at how much has been overspent to date, and then is projecting what else is going to be needed to carry us to the end of the year.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So like for instance, the electric line, the electricity line, as of the May 21st expense report was only had a deficit of $2,814. But obviously she's making some projection that will need that by the end of the year this deficit will be as much as $10,000. So she's suggesting we transfer that much money. So
Actually, that's true, but also part of that are bills that we've been sitting on because we have those electric bills from before the library was credited for their solar panels.
Mhm.
So that's what the bulk of that cost is. It's
Okay.
actually the before credit bill.
Okay, can you give us an update? Because I think on the library issue, so I think just to remind people, I think there was some concern about some fairly expensive electrical bills for the new library building, but there was also some confusion about whether those would be credited with, given the coming online of the solar system at the library. So what's the latest on that?
So we can expect to see the credits going forward, but all of these costs are pre-credit. So I think those panels probably went live like January or February. So they were not in the system yet. So we are on, we're on the hook for that cost, but the bill should be less going forward because we'll be enrolled in the program.
Okay, so some of this $10,000 that Gail is asking for us to transfer are these outstanding balances from the library that we didn't pay because we were sort of investigating what the deal was.
Yeah, we were there was some kind of gap too, so that whole process was extended, I think, longer than it needed to be. Marianne definitely did her due diligence and contacted Eversource for that.
Okay. So last thing on this is there it's probably too early to say this, but is there some sense of how things are going now that I guess we've gotten authorization, the solar system is generating electricity, we're earning credits at the library. Is there some early signs about kind of how it's doing in terms of are we banking
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, it's too new of a building, but I would anticipate it's likely that there will be some electrical costs like next winter, when we use up the credits we've accrued over the summer.
Right. Okay. Got it. All right. So we are. Okay. So the health insurance line, as of, again, May 21st, had a balance of $126,000 or so. Obviously, I'm sure some portion of that is going to get spent still. But it's only at about 83% spent. So it might be tight, but obviously she has enough confidence that we can afford to transfer $10,000 from the health insurance line for this. Okay. So I'll make a motion to recommend transfer of $10,000 from our health insurance line to the building's electrical line.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions about this or any discussion, concerns? Okay, so we'll take a vote. Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Loss I.
So do I.
Stein, aye.
Walton, I.
Okay, great. All right, next one is heating. All right. This one is basically, as of May 21st, had a deficit of $98. So I think it was just at that point where it's now getting overspent. So Gail is assuming we'll need $4,000 to cover through the end of the year. She's recommending that we transfer funds from this health district, which I don't know, Susie, you've done some research on this. Is there any update? Because we have $0 spent on this line.
Right. So they spent the year trying to get that person in position and it didn't get spent. So it will be, they can draw on that money because it wasn't spent. And eventually, I don't know as of when, they have somebody in the position.
Yeah. So there's no expectation that this line is going to be spent, or a significant amount of it is going to need to be spent between now and the end of the fiscal year, right? Okay.
And they will not be spending it.
Okay. All right. So that amounts to 32,000 and change of unspent funds for that line. So seems like plenty to cover this $4,000 deficit. Any questions about this? All right. So I'll make a motion to recommend a transfer of $4,000 from the county health district line to the building's heating line.
Second,
Okay. And we'll start to vote. Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Moss eye.
Soito, I.
I'm I.
Walton, I.
Okay. Then we have emergency management phone notification. This is small amount of deficit here, $117. I just want to check. Okay, yeah, so this matches what is in the on the expense report, $116.79. So presumably there's no additional expense that that must have just been a bill that got paid. Okay. So she's recommending we transfer from
Mhm.
the
FERCog
cog line. Let's see.
has 672 left on 5
Yeah.
early May.
Okay, got it. So 2016. Okay. So she's got 3 transfers here, but they're under that 600 and change amount. So okay. Any questions about this? So yeah, FERCog has a balance of $672 right now. Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend a transfer of $116.79
No second.
from the emergency management notification line from the Council of Governments line to the emergency management phone notification line.
Second.
Okay, great. Any other questions, discussion? Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Moss eye.
Soito, I.
Stein, I.
Walton, I.
All right, next up is electrical inspection. Okay, this has a balance of $13 on the last expense report, so there must be some expectation there's going to be another bill for this.
Yeah.
So
If you go on this,
yeah.
the second tab has her explanations.
Oh, I didn't even look at that. Make this bigger. Oh, and she does have the snow and ice. Okay. The electrical inspector certification was more than anticipated. Okay. All right. Okay. So this is another one that she's recommending we transfer from the FERCog line. So I'll make a motion to transfer $100.14 from the Council of Governments budget line to the electrical inspection expenses line.
Second,
Okay, any other discussion about this? All right, Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Moss eye.
Soito, I.
Stein, I.
Walton, I.
Okay, next up is $300 from highway wages to the highway longevity bonus. So let's see. The highway chief was owed longevity, but not budgeted. Haley, do you have any information about this? Was this just a mistake on our part in terms of when
Yeah,
we
I think
budgeted this?
for that one and the one below it where the library cloak needed longevity, which is a simple error.
Okay, got it.
I'm a little confused because does that mean that Dave Grenier's years, and I don't know how many years on as a worker are part of how that accumulated?
Yes.
So I guess he's getting credited for his total years as an employee of the highway department, it sounds like. Okay. That might be a good task for the personnel board to see if they're like specific. I mean, I don't have a concern about it, but it'd be a good thing to have an explicit.
No, yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Yes.
All right. Okay. So highway wages, I want to see what that's at. Okay. So highway wages has a balance of $34,538 as of May 21st. So that line is about 71% spent. Okay. And I guess, what would we say? Like, we're probably, May 21st is what? That's probably about 46 weeks into the year. Does that sound right? Into the fiscal year?
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. I just want to, so like, for a budget line that was like getting spent regular increments over the course of the year, we would expect to be at about 88% or something roughly that by this point. So, okay, so that looks like it's pretty healthy balance there. All right. So the recommendation, I'm going to make a motion to recommend a transfer of $300 from the highway wages line to the highway longevity bonus line.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion about that? Okay. Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Moss eye.
Wait, do I?
Stein, aye.
Walton, I.
Great. Last one. Similar, I guess, issue for the library. So it's the library clerk who's owed longevity but was not budgeted. Okay, and that bonus is $100. So the recommendation here is to transfer that from the Council of Governments line. So I'll make a motion to recommend a transfer of $100 from the Council of Governments line to the library longevity line. Well, let's see if there's a second.
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 Okay,
But
any
I have
other
a
discussion?
question. I
Yeah,
have a
please.
question because with the highway,
Mhm.
we do have some wage lines, but there wasn't one for longevity. In the library expenditures, we have had the longevity, and there was a longevity of $150 paid out in FY 26. So I guess so I think when we had the discussion on that budget, there was no request in FY 27, and we maybe thought we just did one of those. So somehow we need to get that information more clearly, like maybe it needs to be attributed to a specific person, so we can see it happening.
Yeah, and
I don't know who a library clerk is.
Molly, were you trying to say something, or were you? Oh no, sorry. Yeah, you're talking to a colleague. Okay. Yeah, I guess my expectation is that that this is something that should be budgeted by the department head, right? And that should come to us in the proposed budget. And presumably that department head should have information about the the length of service employment for each of their employees and who's eligible and when they're eligible. So maybe it's like we need to just with our, it occurs to me now as we're talking about this that our usual budget letter, maybe it should have like I don't know if like footnotes is the right thing, but like a little like at the end of the letter, just like a few reminders like this, like
Yeah.
and this could be one of them.
Yeah.
make sure you've reviewed the eligibility of your staff for any longevity bonuses they might be owed in the upcoming fiscal year, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that would be applied across all departments, because right now we don't, I'm not sure how the information has reached us before, but it is on the library budget in the past. So
Yeah.
we know that Mary Ann had that knowledge, but we don't
Right.
know if everybody else did that. So a reminder on the annual letter would put it back in their court, and then we'd know.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does this is a good point about the sort of consistency, because it looks like I see a longevity bonus line as part of the police department's budget, the highway, but not the fire department. Presumably they're eligible
Yeah.
based on the same rules, right?
Mhm.
And that's pretty much it. So
Isn't it also on the TA's line?
let's see. I just did a search for longevity, so maybe I'm looking at that.
Yeah, who else?
I don't see it on that.
I don't see it.
Treasurer.
Yeah, I don't see it on this.
Mm-mm.
So that should be added.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, am I right to assume that every department is eligible for, or every department's employees are eligible for the same longevity bonus using the same criteria in terms of length of service? Is that?
Right.
So yeah, so we may need to talk to Gail about just making sure every department has that. And then I think that would help the department heads. It would trigger them as they're putting their budget together to just do that thinking of like, okay, well, who's coming up for potential longevity bonus?
We can also put it in the forms that I've been sending out,
Yeah,
a blank line for that. Because I think what's happened is that when somebody was eligible, it got allocated, and then when they weren't eligible, it disappeared on our forms. So we can make our form that we send to them always have a longevity line, and they
Yeah.
can fill it in.
yeah. And not to create work for them, but I'm wondering also if like maybe there's a task for the personnel board to, have a roster of all town employees, and that are not working under a separate negotiated contract, and could have their sort of start date of service and then a calculation of their length of service, and then that would be helpful to sort of see how many of these are coming up in any given year.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. All right. So any other questions about this last transfer? All right. So I'm gonna vote Cashew, aye.
Mosier, aye.
Moss eye.
Where do I?
Stein, aye.
Walton, I.
Great. Okay. So I'm looking at the explanations sheet. And so here we have some more information on other items that will need transfer. So snow and ice has a transfer of $100,732. Building supplies may need approximately $1,000 due to costs going up for regular supplies. Okay. Fire department salaries and wages, both lines may need transfers due to mutual aid restaurant. Veterans benefits will need 2,500 to 3,500. So we'll just look at a couple of these. Yeah. So veterans benefits line right now is overspent by $1,551. Haley, do you think we should vote on a transfer tonight, or is Gail expecting us to do a second round of these transfers? Because there must have been a reason why she didn't put this on the first page where we have all of the transfers that we just voted on.
Yeah, she's definitely expecting to do a second round.
Okay, all right. So we won't take any action any on these tonight, but just so folks know, we have, we're gonna have a few. So I'm just gonna look up the fire department. All right, so training salaries have a balance of $6,245. But the response wages is overspent by $6,252 as of May 21st. It does seem like this was an unusually busy year for fire departments, right?
Does that include the transfer we made?
that's
No, it does not include that. I
Okay.
still need the language. I think I missed that meeting, so I just need that language and I'll put that together and then that should take care of that one.
Okay, great. I'm trying to remember, was that 2 meetings ago or was that our last meeting?
Well, I think it's April
23rd?
28th. It's in the minutes we haven't approved yet. April 28th.
Oh, okay, great. All right, let me just pull up those minutes.
And that transfer was 5,500, so it changes this picture
Yeah.
by that much.
Okay. So
And I
that,
assume everyone voted yes, that was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unanimous. And at that point, those were going for the call wages.
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, FinCom approved the transfer unanimously. Yeah. So if Gail needs the minutes from that or as a record, it was from April 28th.
Okay.
All right, and then on snow and ice, all right, $100,732. So I guess so I'm gonna just pull up something because I don't know if this amount of reserve funds available includes the $5,500 that we already transferred, but I can find out in a second here. $127 documents, okay. It does not. So we have a balance of 47,400 $484.45. Okay, so that's our balance. So we'll need
Are any of these lines, AJ, possibly transfer some other lines also, or do we think these are all going to require?
I think these other ones are going to be small enough that we'll deal with them with line-to-line transfers, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I guess maybe Haley, a question for Gail is, does she think it's appropriate and can we find $53,250 worth of additional potential transfers to cover
I
the
think
rest
we
of it?
can,
Yeah.
because we'll have some money left over in the town clerk line because that position is not likely to be filled by the end of June.
Right.
There's likely to be some remaining funds in the police chief's salary line.
Mhm.
Possibly health insurance. Her and I are keeping an eye on that, and also possibly the admin assessor. So you could get pretty close.
Okay. And there's definitely a fair amount in that county health district.
Yes.
As we saw earlier, we've only transferred 4,000 out of it. It was 30 something thousand. So, okay. So yeah, maybe in that, maybe we can handle that. Obviously, since we're not gonna see that number grow between now and the end of the fiscal year. So maybe we can deal with that snow and ice line at our next round 2 of these transfers.
Any idea on that fire department salaries and wages, what that might add up to?
Yeah, so like, what did we say it is right now? It's about $6,252 right now. The training line has almost that exact amount of balance on it, but I don't know if there are any other training exercises or activities. So that would be a question for Lenny, maybe, if he anticipates spending any of that training balance between now and the end of the fiscal year. If they've done all their training exercises, then I would think that would be the
They-
logical.
They train every Thursday night. Doesn't,
Okay, so
don't know who
somebody's-
shows up. It's a variable number who attends, but
Got
there's
it.
a few Thursdays left in the fiscal
Okay.
year.
All right, so maybe some of that will be available, but not all of it. Okay. But yeah, that's what it's looking like right now.
Small balance.
Yeah. All right. And then the veteran benefits is interesting because I feel like that line that's a line that's usually underspent, as I recall, in recent years. So we must have had an additional eligible person, I think,
Right.
come online this year. So okay. So we may need to look at that in the FY28 budget and see if if we're budgeting that at the right level. All right. Okay. Any other questions on line-to-line transfers?
Well, I think that we would need to sort of distill the lesson from each of these items.
Yeah.
We need to look at how we did for FY27 projections and then see if there's anything we should be paying attention to coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's I mean, I think so obviously there's we don't have to spend time talking about the assessor's clerk because that's just a personnel management sort of issue. But I think at least 2 of the lines that we've discussed tonight, the electrical line and the heating line. So the electrical line, I think we've got to see we're still in this process of learning about the library and its energy usage and so that's something to, I think, watch very carefully this year and sort of see what the expenses look like at different times of year there. And then heating. Yeah, I mean that's one that I know that heating expenses have been going up, but is there any reason to think that we would be spending less next year? It seems unlikely, but so we might
It
need
was
to.
also a really cold winter
Mhm.
this year, and
Yeah.
who knows what next winter is going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's
And-
another one to maybe see if there's like an adjustment that I think potentially needs to be made on the FY28 budget. I can't remember.
We may have boosted it, but I
Yeah,
can't find
yeah.
my budget right now.
Yeah, I'll look it up while we're talking. Okay. And then, I think this was such an unusual year for snow and ice, but like, was it $100,000 unusual, or is this just the reality that like the materials cost quite a bit more. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that. All right.
And the budget that they're still wrestling with for supplemental, they identified giving town some money for the extraordinary snow and ice. So we don't know how that'll
good.
come out. Because that's not a done deal yet, but everybody, so that doesn't point to whether we over sanded our roads. That points to it was a hard year.
Right, got it. So heating, we only boosted by $1,000. So it was 14,000 in FY26 and 15,000 in FY27. So yeah, that's definitely one we're gonna have to maybe think about for FY28. Maybe we'll see how our FY27 spending is on that one. Okay. All right. So let's see. We've got a couple of sort of miscellaneous announcements that or news that came through. I guess maybe before I get to those, Haley, are there any other items that you think we're going to need to address that weren't identified by Gail, that we're going to need to deal with in terms of like FY26 deficit?
The only thing I can think of is like any repair or monitoring costs related to the oil tank leak that weren't part of the covered insurance expenses.
Okay.
But I haven't seen any invoices at this time.
Okay. Got it. All right. Sorry, I want to check one other thing. Okay. So let's talk about PFAS. So I forwarded the quote or proposal that you shared, Haley. So from Ty and Bond. So can you remind us what this is for the ongoing testing? And is it actual, like, does that include replacement of poets or not?
I do not believe that was a covered expense in
Okay.
their scope of service.
All right.
I'm pulling it up right now. So that does not include bottled water delivery to impacted residents if needed. We don't really have it. Costs associated with the installation of the POET systems and any annual fees or laboratory service costs that we have to pay.
Okay.
So this is just for the sampling, the testing, and reporting costs and monitoring.
Okay. So the bottom line is these are the amounts for PFAS testing that Ty and Bond is going to need for FY27, FY28, and FY29. So what did we budget for?
So in the expense report, on page 12,
Yeah.
we have a balance of 117,214. So that's
Okay.
in
I
the
think that's a couple weeks old. So the one I'm looking at that's dated May 21st, that has a balance of $103,819.
Okay.
And we spent $94,627.
Okay. So so this 106 is almost all covered for next year.
Yeah. Now, what I'm trying to remind myself is
right.
So we don't actually
right.
We don't have a PFAS testing line in our budget, right?
Right. It's not there. And the page 12, that kind of page is called page 12. What page am I on? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is called General Capital Fund. So what I believe, but I think we need some legwork on this. What I believe is this is a fund that pays out those bills that,
Yeah.
in this case, we made those two, loans. We bought those two loans. And so in our, operating budget that we brought forth at ATM, we don't have a going out a cost in
Right.
that. But we do have the loan interest is
Right.
written into ours, but no loan principal. So does that mean we finished paying off the principal? Doesn't seem like it. So
So, yeah, it's a good question. So I guess there's a few things to think about moving forward. One is let's assume that for the most part, we've got FY27 taken care of right now with the balance that remains in that PFAS contamination line. I think starting with FY28, we probably need an operating line for PFAS testing, right?
yeah.
And we need to actually, like, I think we've had this strategy in the past of borrowing funds to cover these costs, but I think that sort of assumes that these are like capital expenses where they're sort of short term in nature, or like one time. And I think it's more likely that this is just going to be an ongoing responsibility that the town assumes, right? Is there any reason to think that's not the case? And it seems like somewhere around $100,000 to $110,000
Right.
for the next few years is the right amount to budget. So this is one of those unfortunate things we're going to need to add, I think, to our FY28 budget is because I don't think we want to continue like borrowing money for PFAS testing unless there's some special opportunity that's like interest free or repayment or something, which we thought maybe there was going to be, but it turned out not to be the case, right?
There is some legislation that may cover some of the PFAS costs to towns. And so that's a possible, and not in terms of a loan. And the other piece is I wonder if this contract should be renegotiated. This sounds like a lot of money. I mean, initially it was kind of like figuring it all out. Well, we're not figuring it all out now. So $100,000 a year for sample testing, which we also moved it. The state allowed us to move, or no, DEP allowed us to move it down to a half year, not a quarter, not every quarter. So I think somebody needs to sit down with Tig and Bond and make sure that there's a reason for it to be as expensive as it's been all along, when I don't see how that would be necessarily true.
So I guess one question, Susie, is what are the assumptions that went into this proposal? Were they to continue to test all of the homes within that that radius, right? Twice a year, or is this quarterly testing? Haley, do you have any insight into this?
I'm looking at it right now, and I'm also wondering if this is something that should go out to bid. Maybe we do need to be a little bit more competitive because there are other companies that can service this. You know, it does say in the scope of services that they're including 5 additional locations per sampling round. So
Right.
that can help drive up the costs.
Yeah.
But when I got this today, I didn't have much time to sit down with it. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we had it
Yeah. No, that
on
makes
the
sense.
docket. But I would like to maybe talk with some other town administrators to see, like, I don't know, maybe if there are neighboring communities that we could partner with to kind of increase our buying potential.
Yeah. So I think that would be a good thing to do, and also, yeah, see if this is something that can go out for bid and if there might be some value in doing that. But I think also getting some clarification from Ty and Bond about what assumptions were made.
Mhm.
And I'm talking about like at that level of, okay, this is the number of homes. I understand it makes sense for them to account for an expanding radius that includes maybe whatever a number of additional homes. Sounds like 5 additional homes per year. That seems fine for them to plan for that. But like, how often are they testing? So like, what is the cost per sample test? Like, to get that
Right.
level of detail, I think would be useful.
Mhm. And I'd also like to see the original just to compare
Yeah.
it. So I'll try to find that.
All right, that's great.
The other thing that happened is the man that started this, Jeffrey Arps, left. So we ended up having two administrations change at the same time. So I guess that could call it a fresh start, but
Mhm.
there's lost history. But what I would say is that I think there's like 70 houses, something like that. I don't even know what that number is. But to go up 5 and not and have it move down to a half year,
Mhm.
it seems like this contract is needs to start all over.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would expect in a proposal. All right, so let's actually, there might be something from it. Considering the potential for one or more of these, all right. Additional 5 private well locations.
It says semi-annually now. It says it in the
Okay.
contract here.
So I guess I would be interested in like having some information about the cost per sample. I don't know, per home, and then to get that level of detail of like how many homes, how many times a year are they testing, what is the cost per test or per sample, whatever the terminology is. Like that would be useful, especially if we're going to put this out to bid and we can, you know, this kind of project should be fairly easy, unlike other one kinds, to compare from one bid to the other because it's pretty straightforward. All right. Okay, so that was one update. Another,
Before we go,
Well, hey,
before we go
wait,
on, I'd like to know why the principal isn't on our operating budget.
yeah. So I think that might be a question for Ryan, right? Since
Yeah.
he manages the borrowing. You know what? I'm kind of Haley, if you're okay, I think I will email Ryan about that question and I'll CC you on that because I'd like to
Just know he's on vacation this week, so I wouldn't expect like a quick response.
quick response. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, Haley, regarding
Mhm.
your comment earlier about you reaching out to other towns and seeing how they're handling this type of thing. What's your sense right now of the towns around us? How many have similar kinds of situations where they're doing this type of monitoring?
I don't know that I have the best pulse on that. I see it pop up time to time on like the listserv for small town administrators. But there's not like a coordinated effort between small rural towns, and it feels like there probably ought to be. I mean, if more towns went into bid, like the FERCog does with gas and, diesel prices, maybe we could get a cheaper product.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking maybe there's other things that can be gleaned from that they might be, are they getting some kind of support, whether through grants or whatever, or are they using different types of testing approaches that are more cost effective or whatever?
We can definitely find out. I'll reach out to a couple of people.
Okay. Writing a reminder, so. All right, other updates, let's see. So, you saw the letter, we did not win um, grant for the grader, which is, unfortunate, and, so I can't remember the exact explanation, and I guess we can just table this till George is back, but I thought unless Lori, I don't know if there was any discussion at capital planning about what the contingency was if they don't earn the grant. There was a reason why we didn't put it on the warrant this year, right? And it was because it wasn't just because we were assuming that it would get funded, but I thought the assumption was if it doesn't get funded, there's some backup plan. We're not going to actually borrow for this. Can you speak to that or?
I mean, I think there is kind of an aspect of like continuing to apply for this grant. I mean, I think
Right.
is one piece. And then I think there's also like the Chapter 90 money and kind of like, but potentially putting a significant portion of that towards it. Though I don't
Okay.
know that would cover all of it.
Got it. Okay. So I think I'll ask George to have a follow-up conversation with Dave about what the contingency plan is. Yeah, maybe I'm assuming is this an annual grant?
He
Application?
said it was the first time he's seen it, so I'm not sure.
Got it. All right. So maybe Chapter 90 is the way to go. Okay. All right. So I'll ask George to follow up with him.
Yeah, one other thing there, AJ,
Yeah.
in that letter that you shared with us,
Mhm.
it also invited
Yeah.
a follow-up discussion with them
Yeah.
that might help us understand better just why we were not successful this go
Good point.
around and what we might be able to do, the next go around.
Yeah.
Maybe to give us a better chance.
That's a good point. Haley, did Dave mention anything about getting some more information about our proposal or?
No, but I'll ask him to do
Yeah.
that. Be
I mean,
helpful
it-
information.
Could be helpful, especially if there's another round of funding.
Yeah, because I know he was saying like communities like South Deerfield received one, and I think Leverett. So be curious to see why we weren't chosen.
Yeah. Okay. I know we've circled around this in the past, but I'm begging your indulgence about this, but like, if Leverett is purchasing a new grader, help me understand. Well, I don't know what their incentive would be to share that equipment with us if they're getting a grant for it, unless the grant's not covering the full cost of it. But I don't know. Does
Well,
anybody
the
else,
sharing.
yeah, does anybody else feel like this is worth exploring? Like, is a grader, is it one of those things where everybody needs it at the same exact time and it's not
Yes.
shareable?
Yeah.
And it's not clear that Leverett's getting a grader with their grant, right? Because I thought that Dave told us that they had two graders.
Oh, That's true. Yeah, I'll clarify and say he said that they were like awarded. I don't know if they had actually applied.
It might be a different kind of equipment. Okay.
Right.
All right.
And I looked at our chapter 90 money. One, the state is preparing a bond that gives the same amount that they gave in FY 26 for FY 27. And for Shutesbury, it's the initial chapter 90 plus a fair share part. And those two things added together are 385, 718. We still have some 82,000 plus unspent from 25. And so altogether with that unspent money, the money that's coming in for FY 27 and the money that came in FY 26, we'd be at 8,054, 517. And I know that Dave has plans for West Pelham paving, but and I know that they feel somewhat successful with the $16,000 repair on the old grader. If the idea is to wait for the next grant round, then maybe it would take the old grader could get by, or maybe it can't. But Dave and George should explore all of those options, um, and know what kind of funds are on hand and what could be done.
Okay. All right. So more on that. Yeah, one of our future meetings. All right. SES parking lot update. So I took I only had about 2 minutes to look at this document. I don't know if anybody else had a chance. So I'm assuming this is the sort of engineering study that got funded at annual town meeting. This is like updated scope for that?
What's the company name?
All right, pull it up. This is from Nate. Oh, here it is. Berkshire Design Group.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, they're the study.
Okay. All right. And does anybody remember what was appropriated at town meeting? Was it 15,800? Let's see, I'll have to pull that up.
It is over here.
Sounds familiar. No.
It is. Picked a few things. Yeah, 15,800.
Okay, good. All right, so it must have. All right, yeah. So this actually.
What's that number on the form?
Yeah, it's 15,800. So it must have come from this
Proposal.
proposal. Okay, good. All right. So I think we're in good shape on this, right? I thought.
I was at the school committee meeting, and I would say that there's a lot going on, like too many moving pieces. So I said at that meeting, that money is not available till July 1st.
Mhm.
And that was like so and there's other pieces coming in, like the ground heat source investigation is they're exploring that, trying to find out who to get the bid from, but and if they do ground source heat pumps, they would use the space under the parking lot for the tubes or whatever they call them. And so then that might help pay for the actual paving when it all comes together. But I know that Haley's meeting with some of the main people involved in this, which would be Anne and Nate and probably building committee but it felt to me at that meeting that it was very complicated. And the idea that they had already begun to spend that money with Berkshire when it's really FY27 money meant to me, these are people dealing with stuff that they need a lot of guidance. So, I don't, there are too many avenues going forward right now. And they need to get coordinated.
So I guess, all right, so Haley, would there be a problem if, assuming this Berkshire Design Group is okay, maybe sort of having begun the work, and if they're okay with getting paid in, call it July 1st, is that an issue? Like, would we be running afoul of any sort of like
No.
procurement rules?
So I did talk to Gail about this, and
Uh-huh.
there is some flexibility.
Okay.
The nice thing is that because we're using free cash, she is more comfortable, going ahead with certain projects in advance of July 1 because we are
Okay.
using free cash. If it was a different appropriation, it would be a different story.
Okay.
So there is some flexibility there. I think that the parking lot is also very, like Sue said, very nuanced because there's some patching work that'll need to be done. And the initial quote that we got was much higher than we were expecting. So now we're looking at soliciting more quotes to do like a patchwork job until we can do the full repaving project. It's a very complicated, very multi-layered. There's still the tank that the fire chief wants to have installed underneath the ground. Michael DeKier will be at the meeting with Anne, myself, a couple other folks to talk about like the grant opportunities that we're pursuing through Green Communities. But it is a very complex process.
Yeah. Okay.
The other piece I told him is that I felt like everything, all of the communications should be sent to UAJ as
Mhm.
chair. They were also including me because I'm the liaison to the school,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
what they didn't have was a view of what the financial story would be and how it would unwind. I felt that I'm not sure that there's any point in us attending the meetings, but we really need to hear the directions that things are going in. And so that we'll be sort of anticipating what FY27 sorts itself out to be.
Right. So I guess I had maybe I should just check my assumptions about this here. So I had assumed that much like the school roof project, that this was going to happen in stages where the initial piece of work was a design study that would, among other things, develop a scope of what kinds of work needed to be done for the project and would produce a bid package that the town could issue and accept bids for. So is that is that the right sort of framework for thinking about the parking lot project? Is that
It's interesting to hear you say it that way. So the school committee wasn't, when I met with Nate, we were on site with Barco Excavating to look
Mhm.
at, patching of the parking lot because there are areas of the parking lot that are so poor that we felt, or they felt the need to fix that before doing the parking lot as a whole. So, in some respects, you could say, why spend, in this case, almost $40,000 to patch something when you're going to look at the next year to repave the whole thing? But the
Mhm.
deficiencies are great. I think it might be worth having some school committee members come to a finance committee meeting to talk about that. You know, the initial bid from Barco's was $40,000. We weren't expecting it to be that high. That's certainly
And that's for the
breaks.
that's the Band-Aid or
Yeah, that's just for the Band-Aid. You know, and obviously that meets the threshold for a capital project. Is that something that we want to do in FY27 when we had planned on doing it prior? You know, yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of effort to coordinate something like that. And there's a lot of moving pieces, as has been mentioned earlier. And, you know, maybe it's not the right time to do that when we haven't sat down with capital planning to say this came in much higher than we were first expecting it to do.
And it wasn't in the capital plan, the patching at all.
No,
And
because we hadn't even gotten to that.
I don't think the school committee coming here to talk to the FinCom is very helpful if there isn't a really, really clear plan that says this is step A and this is what it costs. Then we'll go on to do this and that'll cost that. That's really what we need to know. We don't need to weigh in on whether it's right to patch it or not. We need to know what the sequence of projects and how they interact and what the cost of those will be, because they're not other than the Berkshire study, which they've already started drilling the holes. They've already started doing some of the assessment of what's in the ground there.
Right.
That piece is the only piece that we were expecting. And so the other piece that they were talking about is the stuff that Michael DiChiara is going to be part of. And that is, you know, the whole ground heat source project, which would tear up the entire parking lot in places. And I mean, they already started drilling, and some of that information is going to be useful to that project. But again, that has two possible companies, starting with one can do from soup to nuts in terms of they'll do the assessment, they'll make the proposal, they'll find the contractors, and the other company doesn't have that approach. But Anna heard, because Nate's part of the ECAC, she was very excited about this all happening. It's like wait. We need a project picture. And
So
yeah.
I have a slightly different suggestion, Haley, and I'm curious, Susie, if you think this would be appropriate. But it sounds to me like it would be helpful to have a meeting that has maybe Nate, the principal, somebody from the building committee, because I view them as the sort of entity that could provide some guidance and recommendations on whether this patching, like thinking about what the sort of scope of the project is, and then, you know, have, you know, some FinCom, you know, a FinCom member or two at that meeting to talk about, okay, what is the process? Like what are the steps that are going to happen beginning now to deal with these various projects that all overlap and that they all have some potential impact on the parking lot and the work that needs to be done there. Does that sound like that would be useful?
I mean, I think that would be a good idea if, you know, if we're thinking that the school needs the financial context to understand the big picture, and the building committee has the technical expertise, and the school committee can articulate the need very precisely, that would feel like a fruitful meeting.
Yeah. And to be clear, I think the financial context is fairly simple, which is that we only have funds appropriated for a small engineering project, and that we just are anticipating that there's a much bigger project, but that we don't know what the scope and size of that and cost of that is. We were under the assumption that the engineering study would give us some guidance and some parameters around what that's going to be. And then it's becomes a capital planning question. Okay, here's a project that is going to need to happen in FY '28. It's going to involve these pieces of work. It is estimated to cost this amount as estimated by Berkshire Design, or who has spent time to do this consulting engineering work this year, and then the question becomes, how do we fund that?
Well, right now there's a meeting planned for June 10th at 9 o'clock. That's the last thing I heard. I don't know if it got moved around. And at that point, Nate was expecting Haley and himself, and I think Michael DiChiara. The wrinkle of going into ground source heat pumps in that space really changes the path.
Mhm.
And so it's not the school that was initiating that. That was coming from ECAC
Yeah.
and the grant that they got. And so trying to figure out what that path is. It's clearly something the town administrator and the school needs to coordinate it, because it's going to be if that, and Michael, and if that project goes ahead, it really changes what we're looking at.
Yeah, so like the other question becomes, what are the timelines for these different projects, and how do we get them to sync up, right? There's no
Right.
point in doing the ECAG
Right.
project
Right.
if
Right.
after we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to repave the parking lot, right? I
Right.
mean, so yeah, so I guess there are sort of three different projects that all have, and so like there's this Band-Aid patching thing that maybe somebody has determined is necessary to happen before like
Right.
FY '27, it sounds like. So that's
Right.
one thing. Who's determined that, and what does the building committee think about that? And is that then there's the parking lot repaving, and then there's this groundwater heat source potential project. And yeah, so like all of that, there has to be like all has to be sort of on some kind of shared timeline that makes sense.
Right. Right.
All right, so this June 10th meeting, is that specifically about next steps on the parking lot, or is that some
It
other?
was definitely on the parking lot. Let me
Okay.
just see if I can pull up my email.
Is somebody from the building committee going to be at that?
We're trying to get Frank there, and I know Anne had said that she would be there.
Uh-huh.
Um,
I could be at that meeting, but Susie, I'm wondering how you feel about, like, is that something you were already planning on attending, or you want to attend, or you don't want to attend?
That's a tough day. I have the granddaughters here.
All right.
And at this point, it looks like it's at 9 o'clock on that Wednesday. Is that true, Haley? Is that the set date time?
Yeah, that's at 9, because originally Anne had reached out to ask what the next steps were for the building. And so we had just agreed, her, Nate, and I, to meet. And then Nate had a school committee meeting, and then thought that maybe we should open up I'm reading Nate's email, so I'm speaking as Nate. Open up the meeting to the FinCom, Select Board, and ECAC. I said, I don't think the Select Board needs to be there, but definitely ECAC and FinCom. And so that's how it's morphed from there.
All right, so I'm going to hold it on my calendar, Haley, if you want to include me on that. But yeah, I think that's a good idea to include Michael and Frank and
Nate and Ann.
Yeah.
And Haley.
Yeah. Okay.
And anything that starts to sort itself out. I mean, these are moving parts from different committees. Everything that starts to be needing information or coming up with ideas, it has to, it would be good for the finance committee to see how this project is developing and how it's going to impact our finances in FY 27 and FY 28. We were counting on, or we were thinking towards paving in FY 28. All these
Okay.
other things may change that timeline.
All right. So that's the deal on the parking lot. So I guess we'll see. So it sounds like there'll be some hopefully some clarity coming out of that June 10th meeting. Okay. Let's see. Couple of other announcements. So I just wanted to see if you all, so we're gonna have two FinCom openings for FY beginning in FY 28. And obviously, if anybody has any recommendations, I would encourage you to speak to folks that you think would be appropriate and do a good job at this. Speak to them, make yourself available to answer questions, to give your sort of inside view on kind of what it's like to be part of this process. And then if they're interested, I would direct them to Nettie, our moderator. She's going to oversee the appointment process. I was going to have a brief conversation with her where I would potentially talk about like capacities, not individual people, but are there certain sort of capacities or perspectives that you all think would be helpful for Nettie to keep in mind, to the extent that who knows? I mean, there may not be that many people expressing interest, but like I think she seems to like that kind of feedback. So the one thought I had is somebody that has that sort of building committee kind of background and expertise. You know, Bob used to have that. And you know, that was helpful to have somebody from the building trades that really kind of knew like a lot about, you know, buildings of those and construction projects and whatnot. So like it did occur to me that maybe that would be a sort of a perspective that we don't totally have sort of represented right now. I don't know if there are, so I'm not necessarily saying somebody from the building committee, but somebody with that expertise and background. That was one thought that came to mind. Anybody else have any other suggestions for Nettie or sort of like thoughts about kind of skills or capacity or perspectives that'd be good for her to have in mind? Molly.
I'm thinking since we're losing April, somebody with the kind of personnel side
Yep.
of things would be helpful.
Yep. Certainly personnel, human resources, kind of information expertise. Yeah.
Let me bring this up with some of the members of the personnel board. I know one, probably not, but perhaps another.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got some terrific people.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That'd be great. Okay. Let's see. I mean, in the past, I think I'm a little less concerned about it now because I feel like our committee's a little more diverse in terms of sort of age and like family, you know, sort of perspective than in the past. But like having somebody with, you know, a school age child, it's probably another positive that occurs to me.
I think it was helpful that Molly and Laura both had spreadsheet
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
experience. And that, I don't think we need to particularly add to that right now, but that's another way of seeing what gains we had
Yeah.
in terms of finding new people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I think you want to have somebody that's comfortable with numbers. And
Uh-huh.
we're all talking numbers all meeting long.
Yes.
So you want them to be
Yeah.
comfortable. So I think
Yes.
someone that has some of that kind of background.
I mean, I sort of
not lots of background, but at least some of that.
yeah. Yeah, certainly not somebody that's like anxious about about that.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. I sort of take, that would be a good thing for me. I mean, I sort of take that as like a baseline kind of
Yeah.
expectation for FinCom. Yeah, and again, it's not about like having a ton of technical capacity as much as just a comfort with numerical information. So, I'll reiterate that to Nettie.
I can't imagine somebody who isn't interested in numbers or having some comfort level with numbers
It would be,
like
it would be a
volunteering
weird
for
choice.
this,
Yeah.
unless they had no idea what
Yeah.
it was about. But
Yeah.
I also think it's good having people who are not eligible for Social Security
Uh-huh.
on this.
Right.
Mm.
It's like the next generation, really.
Yeah.
mm,
We're doing better than we were 5 years ago or whatever.
No,
On that.
absolutely.
Yes.
Kind of based on the recommendation that we made at town meeting, I mean, maybe somebody with kind of interest in kind of economic development or like
Yeah.
regional development or, just in general ideas for kind of the revenue side of things.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I just think someone that's maybe new to municipal or a new interest to municipal. This is a great way to really learn about how a town government works by being on a finance committee. So someone that wants to learn how town governments work, it's a good.
Yeah.
That has that kind of an interest.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Actually, Molly, can I ask you to tell us a little bit about this exciting opportunity you emailed me about? This sounded like this could be really helpful to us.
sure. So I had heard about there's the Massachusetts Municipal Association has a partnership with Suffolk University where they do a series of classes at the kind of graduate level. And people from different parts of municipalities participate, and they try to get like pretty good cohorts of like mixed numbers and stuff. And I know a number of library directors that have done this, and I've been interested in it, but it's always been like on the Cape or in the Berkshires or like near Boston. And this coming year, it's in Palmer is one of the locations. So I decided to apply. And I know Haley, somebody
Yeah,
else
it's
at
great.
Shutesbury, did he get in?
No, we didn't. We haven't applied yet, but I
Okay.
did that program and it's really stellar. So I think you'll enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, so it's about like local government management and leadership or something like that. And they have different modules, like five-week classes. And one of them is on budget and financing. And one of them is on HR. And I don't remember what the other ones are off the top of my head, but I will be going to school for 25 Fridays between September and May.
That is awesome news. So and is Forbes giving you some support around this, like in terms of time?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so they're paying for it and
Uh-huh.
I'm doing it on work time.
Okay,
We're,
good.
we're going to ask our friends group to actually pay for part of it because it's just under $3,000.
Okay, all right, that's awesome. So I'm really happy to hear that.
And did you say that there was another person in Shutesbury that was interested in that?
Yeah,
did-
that was Brennan, and that was the one where the FinCom decided not to put it in the budget to have him request it as a transfer leader.
Gotcha.
So we said that it could come from a different line. We didn't say it couldn't come.
Yeah, it was that you didn't want it in the operating line, you wanted it to come as a separate transfer request.
Well, he doesn't live in here.
Because
All
it's not an ongoing expense.
Yeah, I think that was the rationale at the time.
And he doesn't live in Shutesbury, so he couldn't be on the FinCom.
All right, so obviously, Molly, like I would encourage you to, like, to the extent that there's interesting things to share from your experience, just please know that we would welcome hearing about that, and I'm sure, I imagine maybe also some connections and relationships that you'll make. So to the extent that you have ideas about getting us in, putting us in touch with certain folks, that'd be helpful. Okay. All right. So see what else I had. Okay. So another quick update. So George has updated this long range planning document. I'm not sure that other than Haley and myself, if folks have seen this, but I'm going to show you just really quickly. We're not going to spend time on this tonight because I want George has a new version of it, but it's essentially like a version of our expense budget. But what happens is there are 5 years worth of sort of forward looking years that are forecasted. And the logic behind this is that we build in a target rate of increase that we apply to all lines in the budget. So that can be a variable that we that we set. And so what then happens is that every line in the expense budget increases by that amount for each of these years. But there are various lines that then get overridden if we have known information. So like some of our positions are contracted positions where there are negotiated amounts in future years. So that gets, instead of just assuming this target rate of increase, we actually put the actual George put the actual numbers in for those known quantities. There are things like the debt service schedule, where we're not just assuming a rate of increase, we're actually plugging in the actual numbers based on our debt schedule. So the point being that, like, where we have good information to substitute, we plug it into this tool, like known factors, and then for all other lines we assume a rate of increase. Then we were talking about, for schools, we could actually do something separate, like we could have a separate rate of increase if we feel like the school budgets tend to change at a different rate than other lines. So we could also, within this, we could build in a different assumption about how the schools budgets are going to increase from one year to the next. And then all of this is going to be like annotated with information, and then we'll actually see what are the projected increases for each of these years. What are the we can plug in different assumptions in terms of using excess levy capacity, not using excess levy capacity. Anyway, so that's I don't want to spend time going through this because this is an older version, but I wanted you all to know that was coming. George mentioned in his email that if this came up, I could share that bit of info. So I think potentially at our next meeting we'll look at a version of this that will be shared with you. And again, the idea is we can play with different assumptions, and then it's not like we have to have one projection. We can include a projection that assumes this this amount of increase on school budgets, another one that that projects a different increase on school. You know, there are all kinds of scenarios that we can build into this thing. Susie.
And is there some assumptions on the revenue projections too?
Yes, I believe we talked about this, right? So you'll see in the same document, there's a revenue section at the bottom of it. And you know, like here was, again, I don't know what his most recent version has done, but we were looking at the sort of history of, you know, it wouldn't make sense to assume 3.2% increase in Chapter 70 money every year, right? Because we've been averaging about 1%. So, so yeah, so we built in different assumptions. So like I think in this early version, we looked at what the average increase was for FY21 through FY26, and then applied that average to future years, assuming the same trajectory. Same on the UGA funds. We used the same logic. So yeah, so there is a revenue side to this as well.
Awesome.
I think the idea is that we're going to share the updated version with you, and George used info from our FY27 budget to populate that. We're going to share that with you. He's going to walk us through it some more at our next meeting. And then we're going to do a little more brainstorming with you all about what are some different assumptions that we want to build into this tool. And then, you know, we'll probably go through one more iteration, and then, you know, we're going to share everybody's going to have access to the tool, and you'll be encouraged to, you know, come up with different scenarios that you want to map out. So, and this is all, this all comes out of some initial conversations that Haley, myself, and George had. So, the point was not to say this version that you're going to see from George is the final version. It's you all are going to have an opportunity to give feedback on it.
And probably share it with the select board at the point where it's
Yeah,
run
right.
over a few times.
Right, exactly. When we feel like it's got it's got enough refinement that we're open to sharing it. We can do that with people like Ryan, the select board. Yeah. All right.
What-
Molly, yeah.
Would this be something that we would share kind of like in our Google Drive in a Google Sheet?
Yep.
I got really confused this past year about like what was the latest budget.
Yep. Mhm.
And because they were being like done in Excel, kind of like offline and then
Yep.
shared back, I never knew like where the most recent thing was.
Okay, I see. Sorry, actually, there's sort of two kind of questions here. One is the document going to get stored on the Google Drive? The answer to that is definitely, that's an easy one. That's yes, and we can put a date maybe in the file name of when it was last updated, so people know exactly that. I think maybe there's another suggestion, which is, could this be something that's actually lives as a Google sheet as opposed to an Excel workbook? Is that what you're thinking? That I'm
Yeah,
less optimistic about, just because I know that George, and to a lesser extent myself, have a little bit more of a sort of comfort and familiarity facility with Excel. So
Okay.
I can ask him, but yeah, my hunch is that one might be a little bit of a harder sell. But yeah, but having, you know, one option is to have, like, there's the cloud version of Excel, which would, you know, I guess the difference there would be that, you know, you would all have access to a version of it that you can, like, you know, that you can use. So let me talk about that with George. So maybe there's something there. But at a minimum, I think we should put the date of its last revision in the file name so that everybody knows exactly. That seems like an obvious thing to do. And we should do that with the budget as well. Okay.
Looks
right.
good, AJ. Looks good, AJ. It's a good
Okay.
step.
Yeah. Most of the credit is to George.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what else.
Summer project planning.
Yep. So that was so this was one. So I think, does anybody else have, so there are a few things we've talked about. One was maybe capital planning might be redoing or updating its cap. Has there been any discussion about that, Laura? Nothing. Okay. I know George had, because he mentioned it I think at last week's get together, that I think he had pinged Ellen about this. So I think there's like early stages, but there's some like trying to get moving on that. So there's that project. I think the other project was, Haley, we talked about this idea of like a late summer, early fall meeting with the select board, capital planning. All of that I think is contingent on us, on the capital planning committee having an updated capital plan document. But I think the idea was to bring that and have that integrated with the long range planning tool. So like some of the assumptions around debt schedule on that document could feed into the long range plan, and then we can bring that to the select board and kind of walk through it with them and give them, again, I like the idea of maybe presenting to them like a handful of scenarios and what assumptions we build into those scenarios. That is to be determined, but like I think that would be a good thing to do with the select board is to present them like some more optimistic or maybe a more optimistic scenario, one that has sort of more aggressive increases for certain kinds of expenses, maybe one that assumes, certain level of capital investment. And anyway, so like the idea being that we could actually look at a few different models that have different assumptions built into them and look at the potential impacts of all of those. Susie, it's your hand up.
So we know that the summer is a hard time to get people together. But I know that the CAP plan has its own it has its community, its members. But I hope that rather than getting stuck on trying to get everybody together, it could have at least a subcommittee draft something. I heard from some people saying there is no CAP plan. Well, there is a CAP plan and it needed to be updated. It needed to be looked at, and maybe the assumptions that are in it need to be identified. But I hope that something comes out of this because it's a pretty big part of our town's energy and money. And I don't know if Laura feels like there's a next step that's imminent, but I hope something goes forward this summer.
Jim.
Yeah, along that same line, I think one of the reasons we talk about pushing for this summer is that once September kicks in, we're really focused on the budget process and negotiating with school contracts and so on and so forth. So this is the one time there is some time available to nail a project like this is over the next 3 months, when there isn't the interference or conflicts with all these other needs and requirements. And whatever it takes, but capital is an important part of this, and that needs to be part of this project over the summer, during the summer.
So can I make a suggestion? And but again, if folks feel like this is not quite the right tack to take, should definitely speak up. But if we feel like where this is getting stuck and there's not enough movement on this happening, um, you know, I can't remember where it came up, but I think the idea of the select board actually, um, I, don't- like tasking, like in some official way, the capital planning committee to produce an updated capital plan. And I don't mean that in like a negative way, but like just like that is, I think, the kind of thing that government groups do is there's the need for something to happen. And so like I know the select board in Pelham directed or this group to do this elementary school study plan or whatever. So like they said, they very officially said, we're asking for this group to accomplish these tasks. So like if this does get stuck, maybe that's a useful step for the select board to take. I don't know, that's just a thought.
That's a good idea. I mean, I definitely think it's worth saying that, there can't be a finance committee budget plan without a capital plan.
Yeah.
Even though the finance committee is working on the operating budget, if you don't have the full picture, you're going in half-cocked. And I certainly would expect at least one select board member to be very pro FinCom going forward. So
Yeah.
we'll see about that.
No, absolutely. I'm on board with this, and this is it needs to happen this summer.
Yeah.
And capital planning there, that's too important a piece of this whole picture. It's too important.
Yeah. And so like very specifically, right, we have this long range plan. It has a debt service line that needs to have quantities like
Yeah.
built in to this tool in order for it to actually
Yeah.
be at all useful, right? Because that's a big part of our budget. And so if we don't have realistic projections of what that debt schedule is going to look like, at least over this 5-year period, then this tool
Yeah.
is going to have a big gap it's going to make it less useful. There's that. Then there's the other thing, which is, we've had conversations about managing our reserve balances. And so that's part of the context as well, is knowing what kinds of, what our the state of our reserves are going to be. We as a as a FinCom have talked about needing to take a fresh look at um, our plans for funding capital stabilization, right, out of the operating budget, which we have not been able to do for a couple of years now. So like we can't really make any good decisions about that if we don't know what the state of those reserve accounts is projected to be. So there's a bunch of reasons why that step needs to happen.
Yep.
Okay. I think those are the big summer projects. There was like, I think,
Personnel.
yeah, there's the personnel board is doing there. Is there any information about that?
Yeah, the plan is to meet with all of the employees.
Mhm.
And that won't happen until July because those are an odd numbers months. I love that. And then from the personnel board, there's going to be a subcommittee that's going to meet with each employee and talk, is this job description, does this reflect what you're doing with your job, how to look at that, how many hours are you actually working, and do a more in-depth study on are our salaries in line with other communities.
Right.
It's a big project.
Yeah. Great.
Do you think something will be proposed that would go into this fall town meeting?
That is the goal, absolutely.
And then you're going to be off. Can that committee function without a FinCom person
For the
representing?
summer? It would be great to have somebody appointed, to join during the summer. I think it's a really good committee, but I think it would be good to have one more person. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things we'll do then is when we have our new members, we'll need to discuss committee assignments. So that's certainly one that we're gonna need to fill.
Well,
Um,
in terms of the timing, yeah.
yeah,
They're gonna meet in July. Maybe we don't have a rep on the first meeting, but we should get it going.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'm just reminded of another thing. Haley, I wanted to follow up with somebody on the OPEB analysis project. So like our understanding was that maybe this year we were getting a new OPEB report from the auditors. Does any of this sound familiar to you, or have you heard anything about this?
I thought we were doing the actuary study this
That's
year.
what I mean. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I remember Ryan saying.
Okay, so we think that's happening in FY 27, not it didn't happen in FY 26. We weren't quite, I can't remember who I was talking to. Okay, got it. All right. But Ryan is the person who kind of communicates with that group that does that. So, okay, good. All right.
Yep.
So I have another thing for Ryan, so I'll just mention to that. All right. Anything else that folks think we need to get accomplished over the summer? That's a pretty big
There's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
project list, so I'm not trying to add, like, yeah. All right. Anything else that we need to discuss tonight before we adjourn?
Did you want to do minutes or did you want to wait till George is back?
I think I'll prefer, just we're getting a little late, maybe I'll prefer to wait until the next meeting. That's
All
okay.
right. I'll write up these minutes to draft them.
Thank you.
And what's the date of the next meeting?
All right, so. Okay. So I cannot meet on the 9th, which would be 2 weeks. But maybe can we meet on the 16th of June?
I'm traveling that week, but that doesn't mean others can't meet.
All right, I don't,
That'll get us off the select board schedule,
Yeah.
which is a goal.
yeah, okay. All right, well, sorry, Laura, to miss you at that one, but I think it probably sounds like makes sense.
I'm gonna be on the West
Yeah.
Coast,
Okay,
so
all right,
I might be able to join you, but I don't know.
okay. All right. All right, let's plan on doing a virtual, because it's kind of early summer. We'll get back to doing some in person, but at least for the next one, let's get back to 6:30 since it's not a select board night on the 16th.
Mhm.
Okay, great. And maybe Haley, if Gail is ready to do a second round of transfers, maybe we can tackle that at that meeting.
I'll talk to her on Thursday.
Cool. All right, sounds good. Anything else? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, Cashew, aye.
Mosher, aye.
Masai.
Wait do I?
Fine, I.
Walton, I.
Great.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Good to
fearless
see you
leader.
all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stay warm.
You all have a good week.